Hi everyone, so today I was looking at this past paper, and when I scrolled down to the section where you find transformations, I saw two questions that got my interest, and the first one was stay away from the fence, add a question tag. The second one was the third question actually, which says unless the boy is proved innocent, he will be sentenced to 15 years in prison. Now, when you look at the second question, you are asked to rewrite it and starting with the word if. So looking at the two questions, the first one comes from the topic of question tags because it says add a question tag. The second one comes from the topic of conditional sentences because there is a condition here. Unless the boy is proved innocent, he will be sentenced to 15 years in prison. Then these two questions gave me two ideas, and I actually started thinking about this, and I was like, why would the examiner ask this question, trying to confuse the student? So I said, okay, I'm going to review the secret to the student so that the student doesn't get any confusion when they see questions like this. So if you look at my website and you go to this topic, I've written something about question tags, and I've also written something about conditional sentences. But before we get here, two things actually came to my mind, and these were, if you want to answer transformation questions, you need to know two things. Number one, you need to know the topic and know the grammar rules that apply to each of those topics. Number two, you need to know how to apply different grammatical rules for the same situation. And I'm going to make this clear. So let me go to the second one. Following grammar rules. What does this mean? It means when you are taught a topic, pay attention to the grammatical rules that the teacher is teaching you. Now, let me show you something. This is a question that was here. Number two, stay away from the fence, add a question tag. So if you come back here, we can answer this question by just following grammar or grammatical rules of whatever topic that you are being taught. Let me show you and prove this to you quickly. If you look at the topic of question tags, you see that there are a lot of rules that you need to follow. For example, you need to know that a positive statement goes with a negative question tag. But specific to that question, there is this rule that when you are dealing with imperatives. Now, what is an imperative sentence? An imperative sentence is a sentence that asks a question, that makes a request or a command. It makes a request or a command. And if you have got a positive imperative, a positive imperative or a positive sentence to start with is a sentence that does not have the word not in it. I think that's the simplest way. For example, when you say I am eating, it is a positive sentence. When you say I am not eating, it's a negative sentence. So when you talk about positive imperatives, you're just talking about sentences that make requests or commands in the positive sense. Okay, so let's look at the rule. What's the rule? When making a request or giving a command using the positive imperative, you can use will you or won't you in the tag, depending on how strong you want the request to sound. And then we've got examples there. Stop daydreaming, will you? Help me with this, won't you? So this is the request, this is a command, and both of them are using either of the rules that we've been given. And this is what I meant when I said all you need to do is follow the rule. So the rule here is add will you. So if I'm to answer this question, I'll just do this. And since I've been taught to add the question tag, I'll paste it there, put a comma there, and put will you, like that. And that's all you need to do to answer that question. Just follow that rule and you'll be good to go. The next thing I mentioned was that you need to know how to apply different grammatical rules for the same situation. So this one applies to this question. Unless the boy is proved innocent, he will be sentenced to 15 years in prison. Now, this sentence is falling under the topic of conditional sentences. I've said that already. So coming back to this topic, and all these notes are on my website. If you want to read, they are well articulated and they've got examples. For example, if you look on the screen now, you've got different rules. For example, number one rule, zero conditional sentences, they They are used to express general truths about facts where one event consistently leads to another. But specific to that question, we are dealing with rule number 2, which deals with if, and it says first conditional sentences are utilized to discuss situations where the outcome is probable but not guaranteed in the future. So probable but not guaranteed, meaning that certain conditions have to be fulfilled. If those conditions don't fulfill, then the outcome will not be there. If the conditions fulfill, then the outcomes will be there. That's what that means. And they convey a realistic possibilities based on present conditions. Let's look at examples. If it rains tomorrow, I will bring an umbrella. Yes. So that's the thing. If rain happens, then one has to bring an umbrella. If there's no rain, no umbrella. And it's clear there. But when we go back to the question itself, it says, unless the boy is proved innocent. So we need to see this conditional uses unless. Do we have a rule that deals with unless? If you scroll down here on the notes, I think somewhere here you'll find unless, and the explanation or the rule for this is that conditional clauses can also start with the word unless, which serves to denote a condition that, if not met, leads to a particular consequence. Essentially, unless carries a similar meaning to if not or except if. So let's stick to if not. The word unless means if not, and it can be used to express condition. The verb forms utilized within examples featuring unless closely mirror those used in sentences employing if. What we are saying in these notes is that when you use unless, which means if not, your expression or your grammar should look like the one I showed you at first, which uses which uses if, which was rule number 2. So to answer that question, you need to know how unless works, which is a different rule. You also need to know how if not works, which is another different rule. And what the examiner is trying to do here is to play tricks with you to see if you can use different rules of the same topic to connect sentences or to answer that question. And this is why I said that the second way you can answer questions is to know how to use different rules of the same topic to answer questions, because essentially when you are answering questions under rewrites, for example, as we have on your screen here, you are actually just changing this rule, the rule that applies to the word unless. You are changing it, you are converting it to the rule that applies to if. And therefore, when you do that, you are going to come up with a sentence that has got the same meaning, because remember, the emphasis here in the notes is that in each of the following items, sentence A is complete, but sentence B isn't. Complete sentence B each time making it as similar as possible in the meaning to sentence A. And from our notes, we already know that the verb forms utilized within examples featuring unless closely mirror those used in sentences employing if. So we know that, okay. And we also know that unless means if not. So when we apply to our question, it's going to look like this. Unless the boy is proven innocent, he will be sentenced to 15 years. So what we need to do is to change this and see how it starts. If I were you, I would do this. If unless means if not, and they've been given already if to start with. So I will say, if the boy is not proven innocent. Why am I putting not here? Because we know that unless means if not. So we have got if blah blah not. And that is what we have in the notes here. If blah blah not. So we are putting those words in between those dots you saw. So if the boy is not proven innocent, which means unless the boy is proven innocent. And then we say he will be out. You just bring this down. So I'm just copying it so that I don't waste time. And remember, a comma is essential. And that's how you would answer this question, by following this second principle of knowing how to apply different grammatical rules for the same situation. So we have just applied the if principle to the unless principle, and we have answered this question without guesswork. Now, you need to learn how to answer questions without guessing. So thank you so much. If you need to learn more or to read more notes, which I've got a lot of examples, just go to the website, and I'm going to give you some links in the description. Thank you. Bye-bye.